Stephen, you and your firm are both leading names in the auto accident space, and that's been the case for over 2 decades. Where did your career as a lawyer start?
Well, it started when I was 28 years old, and I got the $1 million verdict, which made me the youngest lawyer in Michigan, and started, turning heads.
Yeah. So, tell me, like when you started, I read somewhere that you had a case within the first 3 days or 3 weeks. It
Yeah.
was really quick.
So, I got so lucky. It's there's a little bit of Malcolm Gladwell outliers, like you're in the right time at the right place. And I passed the bar in 1995 and started practicing. And that was when Allstate started their MISS program, which was minimal impact soft tissue, and they're making lawyers try cases. The problem, Chris, is lawyers hadn't tried cases for like 20 years before then. Everything gets settled. It's settled at arbitrations or settled on the demand level. So lawyers, Warren Buffett says when the tide goes out, you see who's swimming naked. You had a lot of naked lawyers, and it was not a pretty sight, right? I'd gone to law school in New York, and I was actually working for a really great law firm. And my dad, who owned a law firm in Michigan, called me up and he said, "So you want to be a trial lawyer, huh?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "What are the odds you're going to get into trial at the firm that you're at anytime soon?" And I said, "Probably not for about 10 years. And he said, "Well, I don't know if you've been following it, but we have a lot of cases and we're getting zero offers, and we need someone to come in and try them." And I came home and tried my first case 3 weeks after I passed the bar. And and it really is an outliers type situation, because honestly, if it hadn't been in those circumstances at that time, I really don't know if people would know who I am today. Because and I'm so fortunate. I was able to get into trial right away. Thank goodness I started getting results right away. Within a year and a half, I got my first $1 million verdict on a $10,000 offer. And next thing you know, I have all these lawyers in Michigan that are trying to refer me their soft tissue cases that they can't settle with Allstate and State Farm. And that's how I started building my career. And fortunately, a year and a half after that, I got about a $4.5 million case on a TBI for a variant for a wonderful woman, but she had worked for 8 months after the crash. And she
Wow.
and her case had probably been turned down by every law firm in Michigan. And my feeling was always from day one when I started trying these cases is I'm a young lawyer. There is an oversupply of lawyers. And as long as I can put my ego in check and look at this as a once in a lifetime opportunity to get great trial experience and differentiate myself from all the other lawyers, then with no ego, if I win, I'm a hero. And if I lose, I probably should have lost. Everyone's going to. So it was a great opportunity to get a ton of trial experience. And I tried that case, got a great result in Oakland County, which is considered an extraordinarily conservative county. And then the next thing you know, I had all these lawyers trying to refer me their brain injury cases. And then, 2 years after that, I got a $9 million settlement on a very sad trucking case. And from there, lawyers started referring me their trucking cases. And that's kind of how my practice grew. And fortunately, that's how my law firm grew, because we literally went from 4 lawyers with no advertising, no TV, no yellow pages, no buses or billboards, to now 20 lawyers. And I'm about to hire my 21st. So it's all basically on those Seth Godin principles that I know you and I both love, of just how can we differentiate ourselves in a oversaturated market? How can you stand out? How can you be the best possible choice for other lawyers, so that if they have an auto case in Michigan, I'm the one they call, because they know that we will have great service, great communication, great results, and we're going to guarantee an attorney referral fee. And that's been my model. It's very different from some of your other guests. We don't do
Hmm.
TV. I don't do anything like, every phone call is $4,000. We want to be the very, very best that we can be in our area of law, and then have other lawyers and through the internet have people find us. And that's a very holistic, healthy way to grow in a very scary, competitive legal world.
Everything you say there just resonates with me so much. And I know you know that. I mean, so even some of those names, the Malcolm Gladwell being one of the youngest attorneys to receive that $1 million award, you're getting your 10,000 hours in to become that expert in at a very young
Yes.
age. That has tremendous benefits. And then, like you said, with Seth Godin being remarkable and different, by the nature
And
of being different, you automatically stand out. So now you're not competing in this sea of lawyers. Now you're trying these cases and you're like, who is this person? We need to work with him. I
and again, it's just most lawyers do not try cases. They talk a good game, but the insurance companies know they don't try cases. And I think there's a reason, honestly, why I can say I get bigger results and faster results than most competitors, and that's because they know that we try cases. So it makes a difference. And even if you lose a case, which is what I always tell lawyers, even if you lose, the insurance company now knows that you're a serious threat, that you will take a case to trial, and
yeah,
it increases the value of every other case you have in your office. So, I teach a lot of lawyers trial skills boot camps, and you know, all sorts of different workshops and trial skills. And one of the things I always say is, look, we don't know what the future is going to hold, but we do know that you will have the most opportunity if you can be a trial lawyer, because that means you really can do anything. And it gives you, in a world that's going to be very scary, by the way, with computers and AI and lawyers in Walmarts and these new law firms like in Utah and Arizona that are now owned by non-lawyers that are going to have a Comcast type subscription service of $9 a month for unlimited legal fees. People don't realize how tough the world is going to get for us and how many lawyers are going to get wiped out. And you better be able to stand out. And I think being a trial lawyer, that's not something a computer or an AI program can do. Rocket Lawyer, LegalZoom, lawyers from India, lawyers at a Walmart, they can't step into your local courtroom and go try a case. So I really feel passionately about it, that especially as we're going to see the pie shrink, so to speak, and things get a little bit tougher in our world, it's more important than ever before to be able to stand out. And one of the best ways to stand out is be a real trial lawyer.
I can completely agree on everything you said there. And I work with a few clients that don't try a lot of cases, and I always think, the insurance companies have to have that data, right? They're just
They
going to
do.
lowball. They're not going to hold your feet to the fire. It's incredible. And when you get so much volume, then you can be a little bit more selective to take the cases that you want to take to court. And it's always been, I see these like great divides where you have the firm that will just try to settle everything, or just take the cases to trial. And for me, like what you're saying is, especially with COVID and not as many people on the road, it would seem like you would want to be a trial attorney to maximize the value you get for your client.
Absolutely. And, there have been studies. So, for example, um, I speak a lot on Colossus and the claims software programs that insurance companies use to evaluate auto cases, because this is all I do. It's my world. And one of the things that lawyers don't realize is there's not a whole heck of a lot you can do to change that claim software assessment of what that case is worth. There's lots of little things you can do, which is a whole nother seminar topic one day. But the one thing you have within your control is your reputation. And there are some insurance companies like Farmers that will pay up to 4 times more on the same case just based on that lawyer's reputation than a lawyer that they know is full of hot air and is not a credible trial threat. So, just a quick funny story. My dad Um, he's had a very full practice, and he's at the end of his career, and a lot of his friends are retiring. And it's not unusual that I'll get a call from someone that says, I want to retire and move to Scottsdale or Boca or wherever personal injury lawyers retire to. and I've got these 30 auto cases, Steve. Do you want to take a look at them? And I'll take some of them over, and I'll basically rewrite a demand package, but I'll do it in my name instead of the lawyer's name that referred it to me. And literally, I'm getting 2 or 3 times more on the exact same case. And it's just because my name was on that case, because the insurance adjuster is putting my name through the auto claim software. And they recognize that, again, like Seth Godin says, I stand out and I'm different from most of the lawyers they deal with. And that's a lesson for your audience, and it's a lesson for lawyers everywhere, I think.
I couldn't agree more. And that's amazing that you actually got to see the split test, the difference, right, of putting your name there, and you got validation on that idea. And now it just comes to light. You have validation, it's true. And, sticking with the Seth Godin here. So you mentioned previously you're not interested in what he calls, the race to the bottom. Right. So what is your firm's strategy when it comes to securing and working with clients?
So it's first, everything Seth Godin says, I take to heart. And one of the things that really has troubled me is just how much of a race to the bottom the legal profession, especially the personal injury world, has been in lately. And it's troubling for a number of reasons. I think it's bad for the profession, but we have tried to take the exact opposite approach. And, we set out every single year to say, we are going to get the very best auto accident and trucking settlement and the best auto accident and trucking verdict in Michigan. I actually have cases now in 10 other states as well, where lawyers ask me to co-counsel. So sometimes in other states as well. Nice. But the idea is, like, if you look at our Google reviews, if you look at how we try to conduct ourselves as a business, because it's all inbound marketing, right? It's not outbound interruption-based marketing. It's people who are doing online research and trying to find the best lawyer for them. Or with most of my cases, it's lawyers all over the state of Michigan that they get an auto case in, and they say, who is the lawyer that's going to get the best result, that's going to treat this client great, return every phone call, is going to be caring and empathetic, and who I can trust to refer the case to, and I know it'll be handled honorably, and I know I'll get a referral fee at the end of the case. And that's the exact opposite of what Seth Godin talks about when he talks about the race to the bottom. We want to be different. And it's a shame, Chris, that honestly doing things like returning every phone call, is one of the things that makes you different these days.
Wow.
But it is. And those little things add up. So I'm actually an economics major at U of M. And I remember there was this economist I read about who really struck me, even before I knew I was going to be a lawyer. His name is Tibor Satowski. And this goes back decades. But one of the things he said is lay people, our clients as lawyers, cannot properly evaluate professional services. In other words, I tell them that I've got $100,000 on a rotator cuff injury or $1 million on a back surgery. They have nothing to compare that to. They have no idea if that's a good settlement, a great settlement, or a terrible settlement. They judge their entire perception of the value of our relationship, of the value of the attorney-client relationship based upon service, how we made them feel. So it's not always the money. And in fact, it's almost disappointing, because my settlements with like record-breaking settlements for clients, they never mention the settlement amount when they do a review for me. But what they do talk about is how, Steve called me on a Sunday, and Steve called me late at night. Or, there was this one time where Steve was in trial, but his secretary called me an hour after I left the voice message and set up a time the next day when I would be available to give her a call back, um, Steve sat next to me at the deposition, and he made me feel so much more comfortable. And just those little things that stick with them, that they judge the entire basis of their relationship on, and that's what makes them, frankly, look at it as a successful attorney-client relationship, and makes them want to go out and refer others. So lawyers who just think, if I get great results, that's all I need to do. No, that's not, because lawyers don't understand that lay people can't compare. They don't know what a rotator cuff is worth, or what their case is worth, but they do always remember how you made them feel. And that's a great lesson for all of us.
I love that. And I've got a few follow-up questions here. And the first one I'm going to throw at you is, having that awareness, which I totally agree with, do you now look for these other attorneys that you're hiring, not only their skill set and the hard skills, their ability to try a case, but maybe their soft skills and how they're approachable and how they're interacting with their customers? Is that something you look at more seriously because you understand how important it is?
That's a bright line rule in my law firm. And there are very few ways that a lawyer in my law firm will ever get fired. Um, I don't care, for example, if they lose a case. I want them to go try a case. If they lose, it happens. The law firm is better for it. They got experience. They're never going to get punished for things like hiring experts or spending a lot of money investing in cases. Where I have a bright line rule, and where they will get in trouble, is if they're not returning phone calls that day, or at the very least having their secretary call if they can't get to it, and let the client know that they're aware that person called and they will get a call back the next day. I think it is inexcusable. And it's funny, because there's such a paradigm shift between old lawyers, it's a little politically incorrect, but lawyers have been doing this for decades, and maybe younger lawyers, because there's this really terrible feeling that a lot of old-time lawyers have, that they're too good to call their own clients, that's what paralegals are for, that their time is too valuable. And maybe that was true one day, but now we're in the age of Yelp and Google reviews and Avvo, and you better treat people with a Nordstrom's, Disney type level of customer service, because that's what they expect. And honestly, that is the only thing that would make me tell a lawyer this is not the right place for them, is if they don't really care and want to help people. Just going back to me, I remember my dad, when he called me when I was in New York. I was actually working for a law firm there that Forbes had said is one of the 5 most profitable law firms in the entire country. It was a great job. It was, I had done very well in school, and I kind of thought like my dad would be like, "Come home, here's a red carpet." And he wasn't. But what he said to me, and I'll never forget this, he said, "You can only come home and work with me if you tell me you really like people and you really want to help them." And those words really
Wow.
struck with me. So, and he's right, because we are, at the end of the day, people lawyers. We're shirt sleeve lawyers that help real people. And if you don't really care, it'll show through. So that's something I'm very passionate about. And again, I just say, like, if you read our reviews, those are the things that come out, is how much we care, and how every phone call gets returned, and just how important that is to us, that clients feel as comfortable as they can in an incredibly uncomfortable, dissonant process.
Totally agree. And I think you shifted just to reputation. It's clearly, if not more important to you as in any other firm, but when you're trying to communicate reputation, some firms come off a bit too, braggadocious, which
Right.
can be more damaging than beneficial. So, how do you evidence your reputation without venturing into the realms of becoming too braggy and putting leads off?
Well, I mean, for lawyers, honestly, they're a little simpler. They just want to know that you're going to get a really big result, and they're going to get a big referral check, and they want to know it's guaranteed. So, I hate to say it, but lawyers are easy to figure out. Like I'm really, really good at writing, 1 and 2 page emails, giving them status updates and letting them know. And, they know that the case is locked in, it's in good hands. With clients, it's funny, there are so many different reasons why clients look to hire lawyers, right? You've got some where they only want the best, and best is biggest results and settlements. And in that case, I've been fortunate. I have the largest ever trucking settlement in Michigan. I have the largest ever auto settlement in Michigan. I have a number of venues around the state where I have the largest jury verdict in that county ever for an auto case or trucking case. My results are probably, I don't want to be braggadocious, but they're better than anyone else in the area in my world of auto. And there are clients where that's what matters. You have
Absolutely.
other clients where they want to know that they can be taken care of, and someone's going to guide them and really be a trusted guide that they could rely upon through a very scary process. And and they read. I mean, it's amazing to me. They will spend hours reading your reviews online, and I've had clients call me and they'll reference a specific review and say, I want you to treat me like you treated her. And it's a tremendous compliment.
That is a
Um,
compliment. Wow.
so honestly, there's a whole nother group of lawyers, or excuse me, of clients where, the last thing they want is a TV lawyer. Especially in more conservative areas of my state, like the West Side. We have an office in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And one of the strengths of that office is that we don't do TV, we don't do billboards, and people feel more comfortable hiring us. They have this mentality where they're almost embarrassed, I think, to hire a lawyer. They're like apologetic, like, Steve, a truck took my left arm off. I don't know if this is a serious injury. Should I sue or not? In those cases, not being a TV advertiser, not but being someone that could answer all their questions and do things, I think, in the most ethical, caring way is what they're looking for. So, there's a way you can do it without being over the top. You don't have to have gaudy commercials or even over the top internet web pages where you talk about all your verdicts and settlements. But I think, as long as you say enough that cements your credibility, your authority, that you're a trusted expert, that you understand the area, and that you make people feel comfortable. And honestly, from all the lessons I've learned, Chris, I would say that last one, making people feel comfortable, is the one that lawyers get wrong probably the most. I look at all these websites and lawyers have their arms crossed and they're not smiling, or they're even scowling in their pictures, and they don't realize, like, normal people are afraid of lawyers. They've never talked to them in their entire life, and just being able to have a warm smile and have body language that is open and warm and caring, it matters. It matters a lot.
It matters so much. And I'm always surprised when personal injury attorneys take heat and they call these ambulance chasers and these negative phrases when they're the ones trying to get maximum compensation for their clients. Would think they'd have a more favorable nickname. I myself get called an ambulance chaser. It's kind of a creative approach. I've seen that running Facebook ads and I just kind of laugh. But
That's because
uh,
you're too good at your job, right? You're getting all those cases for the clients that are the lawyers that hire you. So that's
Oh,
why.
it's amusing. And reputation, I want to dive into this review conversation because
Sure.
we both know how important, how critical these reviews are to social proof, to relay the client experience, to to kind of, give it an opportunity to share their experience. And then, a week ago, I think it was a week ago, I'm reading in the news and I see this article pop up. It's Gursten versus Doe. Court allows fake online Google My Business reviews to harm competition. And I literally was just infuriated. Being an SEO specialist myself, immediately went to read the Google Terms of Service, and I just kind of wanted to talk to you about this particular case, and
Yeah.
just have a conversation about it in general.
It's, to me, an incredibly troubling case that should concern everybody. What it's basically saying is that a malicious competitor who is deliberately out to hurt your reputation and harm your livelihood to their benefit actually has more First Amendment protections than you do as an innocent business owner. And to me, the ramifications of this case is basically that, we live in a society where supposedly, right? Supposedly, if you're ethical, you do things the right way, and you offer a better product or a better service, then you will win. And that's what business is predicated upon. And this case will do enormous harm to our society, because what it basically says is a struggling, unscrupulous, unethical competitor can create fake accounts and give you a 1-star review, and it's legal and it's protected speech, because it's the opinion, even though it's not your client, it's of a malicious competitor. But the courts decided to ignore Google's own review policy in that decision. And instead, I think, this is what happens. We have judges that are not owners of their own businesses, don't really understand real life, and honestly don't understand just what a widespread problem this is for everybody out there, this problem of fake reviews. So, for me, I've been really fortunate. We've done very, very well with internet search. I basically am showing up at or near the top on most Google searches because, again, if you look at what Eric Schmidt was saying about how you do this the right way, we have credibility, we have authority, we have trust. I've given countless TV and media interviews, all those trust factors that help with search engine rankings. I do 10x content. My links are high quality and they're legitimate, right? You do everything the right way, and then you could have a starving and unethical competitor that tries to ruin it all and tear you down. So, that case it came out a week ago, like you said, and it's already gone viral. It's showing up, people are writing about it all over the place, not just in legal services, but in the digital world as well, in your world as well. And I think it's incredibly troubling. In my case, it's even worse because I proved that my suspicions were correct, and I unmasked the lawyer who was using a fake name, who was giving me fake reviews. And the court still said it's protected speech. So it's so troubling, and it's the danger it holds for people who do things the right way is really significant. So I've already said I will be appealing this to the Supreme Court. I'm going to do everything I can to unearth the lawyer that did this to me, because I know it's a lawyer and I can prove it's a lawyer. And this is the right thing to do. You don't need to go to law school, Chris, to know the difference between right and wrong. And unfortunately, your clients, because of your good work, right? I mean, they're targets because they're probably going to be doing much better in the SERPs and the search engine results than their competitors. And these days, you have a lot of starving, unethical lawyers waiting for the phone to ring. And it's very tempting to try and tear down your competitors that are ranking ahead of you so that you can try and get your phone to ring.
I completely agree on all accounts. And that's why I was just so fired up. I read this, I sent it to a Google product expert, thought about contributing on the Google product forum, but I myself was a little chicken and didn't want to be a target because I was going to talk about, all the practical things, these lead gen companies creating businesses on a dumpster and, manipulating Google Maps. And even the algorithm itself, which I'm sure if your reputation starts to fall and you're no longer a 5 star, let's say you're now a 3 star, and a consumer types in best car accident lawyer, there's a very high likelihood that you're not going to show up because you're a 3 star rating. Just like if you were searching for restaurants and you type best restaurant near me, you wouldn't expect to see the 1 star restaurants. So it could have a negative impact for those superlative searches, best, top. The other thing I was thinking about when I was reading the conflict of interest section on Google's terms of service is I was like, well, what's to stop a marketing agency just, activating every single person that they know to just go leave 5 star reviews. So then it's like the person acquiring these reviews the right way, like yourself, then has to go up against somebody that's just shotgun approaching these reviews and doing it unethically. So it's just it's something that really bothered me, and I'm so pleased to hear that you're appealing this. I think it's just ridiculous. I can't believe it.
Yeah, it's really sad. And again, the whole principle is that the person who offers the best service or the best product should be successful. They should win. And you don't want the companies that are um, losing out because they're offering an inferior service or inferior product to now be sabotaging their competition. It's not what our system is based upon. So it's really troubling. And I think this is the right thing to do. And I'm going to fight this fight.
Love it.
I find myself becoming a reluctant First Amendment warrior once again.
I love it. I love it. So, I'll be watching. I'll be rooting for you
Thank
for
you.
sure. It's unfortunate that even for myself as an agency owner, I had to hire a team just to fight spam. And I never thought in a million years that I have to hire staff just to fight spam. That reviews that were fake and entities not following the proper guidelines for their business entity name and all these different situations. But it's just unreal. But I kind of want to take a U-turn here because
Sure.
we kind of briefly covered this, but I really wanted to highlight this because it's different. You mentioned that you didn't actually do the intentional billboard and the TV. And at the time, I'm sure you saw many attorneys getting a lot of cases like that. So what was it that you saw that was like, you know, what was your attitude towards choosing a different direction for advertising? Because it's so hard to have that awareness to be different. What made you kind of shift to a different direction, and now it's working incredibly, like you said, you're ranking all over the place. I just kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on that a bit.
What I would say is the thing that probably scares me most would be to be going along with the herd and doing what everybody else is doing. I think you're a lot safer when you're charting your own path. And for example, the Detroit market has 20 law firms that do TV. We have a couple 800-pound gorillas, but how do you break into that market? And how do you break into that market without saying it's going to take me 5 years or 10 years, and I'm going to need to spend $5 million or $10 million to at least make sure I'm in the top 3? And then how do you do that now when in the next couple of years we're going to be seeing nationally these mega firms, the Morgan and Morgans, the Sokolovs, the law firms that want to spend, go into the market and dump millions and millions of dollars? How do you compete? And going back to Seth again, how do you stand out? How are you remarkable? How can you be different? And I never could figure out how in a 20 or 30-second TV spot, I can make myself different and stand out from 20 other law firms. So I decided to go a different way. And to be honest, the thing that I loved about the internet and SEO as a young lawyer, as a baby lawyer, was you don't have to have a huge budget. It's more sweat equity and hard work than it is just throwing a lot of money at something to get the double color spread, yellow pages ad, or the most TV spots during daytime soaps. So for me, I decided what is going to be my niche, because I didn't want to do everything. And I decided my niche was going to be auto and trucking. And I just focused and went, you drill deep, not wide is the expression. I changed the name of my law firm because nobody knows who Steve Gursten is. I don't advertise, right? There's no branding to Gursten. So I changed it to Michigan Auto Law. And, I've been president of AAJ's trucking litigation group, traumatic brain injury litigation group. I'm the president now of the distracted driving litigation group. I've spoken at well over 300 seminars all over the country to lawyers. I do a 3-day advanced auto accident seminar in Las Vegas that gets several hundred lawyers every year. I want to be known, and I want our law firm to be known as the very, very best in this area. We don't have to be the biggest in 10 different areas of law. I don't want to be advertising for mass torts and aviation wrongful death and 20 other things on my website. I want to be very focused, and I want to just be better than everybody else, and I want to do it the right way and treat people the right way. And that, unfortunately, in our world is unique. It's very different from everybody else. So, luckily, again, going back to Malcolm Gladwell, I was young enough that I saw the internet and I got it, maybe a little bit more than lawyers who were older. I understood the potential, but I was also successful enough, and I had enough results and success behind my name that I was able to leverage that with a website. So I wasn't just a brand new lawyer throwing out a website. And again, I think it was just right time, right place. And then understanding, like I'm sure you advise all of your clients, because you have a tremendous reputation, Chris, that
Thank you.
You're never done. It's a marathon. It's like gardening. There's always going to be more to do, and you just have to accept that. I'm a huge James Clear fan. I believe in systems and habits. So the question is, for someone like me who's very busy, how can I create a system that will be successful, that will let me regularly create high valued 10x content for my blog and my website? And how can I keep improving even when I'm super busy and I might be in trial for 2 weeks? So those are the things that people need to think about. And I think that's where lawyers drop the ball, right? They look at this as a sprint, or they look at this as something they could buy their way in, and it's the long game. You can't.
I think there's so many nuggets there, and I completely agree with everything you're saying. And it just really resonates with me from, Atomic Habits, James Clear, and Malcolm Gladwell. And I just think that I agree. And that's why you're so successful. And, I would say one final question had here is, you know, growing the firm to the size of the firm you have, and building this reputation and having all these responsibilities, as the president of the AAJ Distracted Driving Group and the president of the Belly Society, you're speaking at tons of conferences and all these different things. What would you say is your best piece of advice when it comes to managing so many responsibilities?
Well, we didn't even get to the fact that I also own 2 other law firms, which is a whole
Yeah.
nother story. But um, I would say you really have to create those systems like James Clear talks about. So, for example, my mornings when I feel like I'm sharpest, that's when I work on my cases. and I do deep dives on the cases. I do focus groups. I work with some of the top experts, because I know, it's funny. A good friend of mine said, "You know what the difference is between a $1 million case and a $5 million case?" And I said, "What?" He goes, You're the difference." So, in a perfect world where I don't have, a court saying I have to be there at, X hour, mornings when I'm freshest, I work on my cases. And then in the afternoons is when I try to focus on marketing and management. And it's worked out very well for me. And then at the end of the day, when I'm really tired, that's when I try to tackle my 300 emails that came in throughout the day. And, and I do create 2 times throughout the day, once in the morning before lunch, once in the afternoon before I leave, where I batch all my phone calls and I try to return as many of them as I can. Um, like we talked about earlier, my secretary is really good that if I can't reach anybody, she knows to call and schedule a time where I can talk to them the next day. Because I always want people to know that they're important to me and I'm not, I'm taking their time and their phone call very seriously. And that's just been a really good system for me.
That's such a phenomenal piece of advice, and I love how you're theming your days, and you know what to expect, and so then you can go into it when you have a marketing activity, you can schedule it for the afternoon, and it just makes a lot of sense. It can set your brain to focus on those activities that you know
Right.
you're going to be tackling, and
Well, because the science says you can't multitask. You can't multitask. You really have to focus. So when I'm doing my cases, I don't want to think about anything but that case that I'm working on. And the same with when I'm working on management or marketing. You got to focus.
it's incredible, incredible. Stephen, where can individuals listening go to find out more?
My website is www.michiganautolaw.com, and that's probably the easiest way to find me. And then I speak probably at 2 or 3 seminars a month, so I'm always out there somewhere.
Awesome. Stephen, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Chris, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun talking with you.
Absolutely.